Welcome back for more science. I'm your host, Boston PhD. Joining me as always is Dr. Moon.
Go to sleep.
And Monkey DDS.
Hello.
As always, we are the Council of Science, and we're going to rank our latest We Roguelike title. This time is Hades. But before we do that, let's go around the table and find out what our scientists thought of the game overall, and we'll ask the question, as we always do, which is, will you keep playing the game after we have passed judgment? So, as tradition dictates, we're going to start with you, Monkey Senior.
Yep. All right. Man, this game is really good. You know, but before we started playing this, I saw people around Twitter like, oh man, this game is their game of the year, and like, I don't know, I really had my doubts for some reason. I don't know
sort of
why.
like, I don't know.
Like, really? Are you sure Roguelike as a game of the year? I mean, like, don't get me wrong, I love Roguelikes, but as a game of the year?
It's the crowd who don't talk about roguelikes suddenly talking about roguelikes.
Yeah, it's like I love Hades, it's my game of the year. And it's like are you? Really?
The No Quarters crew are, some of them like roguelikes a little bit, most of them prefer roguelites. And when I'm hearing Harlow and Mackie just gushing over this game, it's just like, you guys don't normally do this over roguelites. Like, you
right.
Like, this is not like you guys.
Right.
But yeah, like, after playing it, I think it's got to be in the conversation now. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just everything about it. There's just so much stuff in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just constantly unlock things, and like there's so many bars to fill, and that's always great, right?
Yeah, but I think one of the biggest credits for the game is that it never feels overwhelming.
Yeah,
like you finish a run, they give you something else, and it's not suddenly like a turn-based strategy game. It's like, well, here's one more thing to do while you're in the dungeon, or here's one more person to talk to and give gifts to between runs, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What else did I say? The art style, I really love all the character portraits and stuff.
Yep.
I don't know what it is, the kind of 3D, 2D visuals of the actual game itself. At first I was iffy on that, but I grew to like it.
Mm-hmm.
All the voice acting's great.
All of it's really good.
Megara, just
yep, so good.
What else? I just can't stop saying good things about this, and as
pretty much every part of it is really good.
Yeah. As for playing it again, I'm sure I will, right? Like, there's so many gifts to give and things to little things to unlock. I've actually unlocked another thing that I can't access yet until I beat it with 8 heat. So there's nice. There's so much more to be seen. So
you gotta fill the book. You gotta fill up the book.
Yeah.
I've still got the ambrosia and I've not used it once because I don't know how to use it yet. Like, I've got like 6 of them.
You just gotta get those hearts up.
Yeah. Man.
But yeah.
Moon, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I have zero intentions of stopping playing this game. Like, we've talked about games that maybe should have done something different in early access. We've got a couple of examples on our list. Legend of Bumbo should have started in early access. It's a prime example of that, and it didn't. We've got Black Sea Odyssey, which spent too much time in early access and then promptly came out way too difficult for the regular Joes. And then you've got this game, which people started talking about this game 2 years ago when it first came into early access.
Yep.
And I heard, it's good, but we'll see how it goes. And then people dropped off it, and then suddenly it gets an 1.0 release. And everybody's talking about it again, and for completely valid reasons. I honestly cannot put a finger on a bad thing about this game. I just can't.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, I cannot talk negatively about it because I don't think there is anything negative to say. I'm 42 hours in and I unlocked the heat meter for the first time. I mean,
right.
I don't know how many hours of that is idling at the main menu when I forgot to stop my Steam Link or whatever, but 42 hours in and I'm still getting major gameplay things that change the way the thing feels.
Mm.
And like you guys said, it's not an overwhelming thing. It's a slow and gentle introduction to lots of different features as you go.
It's really incredible.
It's hard to put a finger wrong. Like, art style, voice acting, gameplay loop, the quintessential one more run kind of game.
Yep.
Like, it's hard to get that feeling, especially these days, especially now when me and you were talking about this pre-show, Boston, like, the interest in video games is at a down at the moment because we're weeks away.
A record low.
Yeah, we're weeks away from new consoles. New games are coming out, but they're kind of balked on current consoles.
Oh, yeah.
And honestly, it's also a bit of a tough end of the year, so it just becomes this whole mismatch of, I really don't feel like playing anything at the moment. And when I've been feeling that, I have been sticking on my controller for my Steam Link, loading up Hades, and just doing run after run after run.
Yep.
Like, yeah, there was a time when I spent a week literally just trying to beat the third floor bosses, I should say. But once I got used to that, like, now I know when I always focus down the Minotaur first, and then I go for the hero second because I'm terrible at remembering his name. And now when I fight him, I get
Theseus,
close to him.
I believe.
Yeah, I get close to him because it stops him from throwing his stupid spear. It forces him to do the spinning attack. Like, if you go close range, he does the spinning attack rather than the spear throw. So now I can handle him better when he's doing the spinning attack because I can dodge behind him. I've learned that through heaven knows how many times of him throwing that stupid spear at me.
Right.
Now I know. So now I take advantage of that fact, and I'm getting used to the patterns when he calls the gods and stuff like that, to the point where they're still challenging, but they're not the end of a run like they used to be.
Right. Man, that feels great.
Yeah. It hasn't consumed my brain, but it's definitely one of those games where it's just like, yeah, I could play Hades. Like,
yeah,
no matter what else is going on, it's like, yeah, I could play Hades. And I have put 40 something hours into this on Steam. I am waiting for them to announce an Xbox version so I can do it again.
Yeah, right.
I was just thinking that too. Like, I would do achievements on this game, you know? Like,
for sure.
That would be fun.
Like, give me that extra target to go for. Because don't get me wrong, Steam has them and they pop up in a little blue box in the bottom corner, but who cares about Steam achievements?
Yeah. There's a million of them. Isaac has like 400 of them.
Yes. Like, this is one of the few games that I'm playing on PC where I'm thinking, yeah, I could play that again. I could do that again, and I know the optimal path for myself now as well, so I could probably do a lot more, a lot faster. Yeah, Hades is great.
Yeah. I don't have too much more to add there. I think for me, playing it on Switch, it's surprisingly performant. I've never had a moment where it's dropped any frames or had any slowdown or looked really bad or anything. You know, I've been sort of 2020 has not been great for Steam for Switch releases, especially over on the Game Club side of things. So it's been nice to kind of pick up a game and say like, yeah, it works really well on Switch. It has everything there, and you don't have to go play it on PC to get the full experience. But yeah, I don't have much more to add beyond you guys. Just that there's really nothing wrong with it, and I feel like if you're listening to this show, you're probably playing it. If you're not playing it, you should do so because it is really, really great. It is as good as everyone is saying. That's usually not the case.
Yeah.
All right, with all that said, let's talk about where it sits on our list. We agreed before the show, Obviously, it sits in our top 10, so we're going to start at the number 10 here. Is Hades better than The Legend of Bumbo?
Not even a question, just go.
Yeah, everybody at the same time. All right, is Hades better than Nuclear Throne?
Yeah, I think so. I think Nuclear Throne is way too hard.
Yeah.
Which, it has its place in roguelikes. It genuinely
It's a great roguelike.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it aims for. It
one
aims
of the earliest ones, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a genre definer, if you will.
Is Hades better than Dicey Dungeons?
I think so. The story on Hades is so good, which I will be using coming up as a very bit serious argument.
Yes.
Okay.
Depending on where we go to with this.
Sure. I would say yes as well.
Okay. Is Hades better than Risk of Rain? Moon, did it lie?
No, it didn't lie.
There you go. Hey, it's better.
And controller support worked absolutely fine.
That's right.
Nice.
Yeah. I would agree. Is Hades better than Void Bastards?
Yeah, Void Bastards is good, and it's got a really solid gameplay loop and a decent mechanic, but I always felt like I was taking steps backwards in Void Bastards. I think I don't think I felt like I'm moving backwards in this game at all, which is difficult.
Well, Void Bastards has, and maybe they fixed it. I haven't paid close enough attention, but it always had a difficulty curve problem. Like the first layer was fine, the second layer was tougher, third layer just sort of feels like, I feel like I did something wrong and I'm sort of getting punished at this point. So nothing smooth.
Yep.
All right, is Hades better than Neon Abyss? We're getting to the top 5 here.
I think so, because I think Neon Abyss is a fantastic, ode to Isaac, while also ode to, the stupid, what is it? Not the Commando games? Konami Code?
Bionic Commando?
No. The other ones.
Contra.
Yes. It felt like a fantastic mix between Contra and Isaac. Like, it genuinely does feel like a good mix between them, and it's a good roguelike.
Yep.
Solidly done, and it has a
one of
20
surprises.
Yes. I think Hades is better than Neon Abyss.
No. Yeah, I do as well, because, like you mentioned, the story, that Neon Abyss had an inkling, like, they were going to put a lot of story in it, but... and then...
Yeah, never really... finished as far as we finished a lot of that game and we never really saw anything additional.
Yeah.
So, all right, is Hades better than Everspace? Praise be
the gunship. But
this is nothing against the gunship, No. Praise be his name.
If we were doing a top ranking of roguelike characters, then the gunship is obviously number 1.
Sure, obviously.
But I think it is. Because I think Everspace does a really solid thing. Like, this is the game we talked about in the last episode of, it's a game that gives you a story reason to go to the end again and again. I think Hades does it. I think Hades does it better. But both games have got really solid gameplay loops. We are, unfortunately, in the process of comparing apples to oranges, which is a very difficult thing to do.
And that's why we compare which one is the better roguelike, because almost every game in this list is completely different from one another. But we're primarily focused on what is a better roguelike, and I think shockingly, Hades and Everspace have a lot of similarities in their DNA, but
was that a
Hades
joke
is
at the ending of Everspace?
yeah. Well, and I think Hades for me was a lot more approachable too, because I think it's a little bit more difficult to maybe not recommend, but kind of it's easier to get into a run of Hades than it is Everspace.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Everspace is a 3D space shooting game where you have to get used to all of the different dimensions and vertices of travel.
All of the Ds.
Flight Assist and Elite Dangerous and try and fly around for a little bit and see how well that goes. Like, it's a much harder thing to step into than Hades is. I think Hades it's a tried and true formula that's so much easier to jump into because of what the type of game it is. So yeah, it's probably better than Everspace.
I think Hades is better than Everspace as well, just because in addition, the time each run takes, right? Like Hades is
like an hour and change every time.
Yeah, even a long Hades run is sort of like, all right, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah, 39 minutes I think is my record.
That's not bad, yeah. For like a full, complete run, that's good. Is Hades better than Dead Cells?
Yes.
I wanted
Hades has a story.
Well, I wanted to mention here because I feel like one of the big reasons that Dead Cells is so high in this list is because it controls so tightly. Like Dead Cells is so great at what it does. The gameplay is great. The items are great. Like everything is so good. But man, if I was to look at any game this year and say that game controls perfectly, it's gonna be Hades. Like there's just like my wife was watching me play it the other day and just sort of being like, what do you do? Like, how do you make sense of this? And it's like, I'm in control of everything that's happening on the screen at every second, even though it looks like I'm dashing 50 times and like slashing and throwing stuff. Like, I feel like one of those rare games where I feel like I'm in control at every second and it feels really good.
It's literally, I think Hades and Dead Cells have both that strength to themselves, which is they are probably the best controlling games like in these lists. I think the thing that puts Hades above it is the fact that Hades has a story.
Yeah. I think it's interesting to point out that both of these games came out in early access, and right when they did, people are like, "Oh yeah, this is pretty much finished, right?" And then once they came out of early access, everyone's like, wow, this is a really good game.
Right, like God, it has so much more in it. Yeah, have you guys heard about this game?
Yeah. I do think Hades is better than Dead Cells as well, though. I think pretty much because of all the story elements. So
yeah.
All right, top 2 here. Is Hades better than Crypt of the Necrodancer?
This is tough for me.
This is a hard one.
Because when you look at all this, you can say, okay, this game is kind of like this game. You can say, Swords of Ditto is similar to, a little bit like Moonlighter. Moonlighter's obviously got something slightly different in it. You've got shooters, you've got dice games,
flight sims,
side-scroller shooters, but you can pretty much compare at least one on a list to another on the list close enough.
Right.
Crypt of the Necrodancer is so unique.
It's so singular that like
it's so difficult to compare anything to Crypt of the Necrodancer because the only thing that even comes close to Crypt of the Necrodancer is Cadence of Hyrule, made by the same people.
Right.
Hades goes above her. I can't tell you why. I literally cannot tell you why. I think Hades just goes above it on a gut instinct. For me personally, Hades goes above Crypt. I think they're both superb games. They have their own strengths in some way. You will still catch me to this day humming the Crypt of the Necrodancer music because it's so good.
Freddie Merchantry just lives
Freddie
in your
Merchantry, I was just going to say, is like they embraced a fan name for that guy, which I love. It's such a unique game. It's so good. Some of its parts is a absolute masterclass.
Yeah.
I do think Hades is a little bit better. And I couldn't tell you why.
I'm right there with you. I think because Hades, on the whole, is nearly flawless. Like, I know, Moon, you and I both have a problem with the idea of a perfect game because I don't think we have. I don't think we have found one of those, or if it exists, we haven't played it. I think Hades is one of those games where it's like, I would have to look really hard to kind of find any small issues, and at that point, I feel like I would just kind of be nitpicking.
And honestly, even then, your biggest complaint is probably it's a roguelike. If you hate roguelikes, you don't want to play this game.
It's another one of those eye roll.
Like,
right.
Crypt's major downside is it's a rhythm-based action game, which can get very difficult, and that game gets very difficult too.
Yeah.
I think Hades goes above it as well. Like Moon, like I can't quantify it, but it's just gut instinct. Yes, Hades is better than Crypt.
All right, well, here's the battle for the top of the list. This is the first time this has happened on the show. Is Hades better than Hand of Fate?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Hand of Fate is so bleeping good, and that's another one of these games that if you like roguelikes and you haven't played Hand of Fate, go get it and go play it. It is that good. But I think Hades is better in pretty much every way.
Yeah, it's the biggest thing for me right here is it's so hard for me to explain why Hades is better than Crypt. But without hesitation, Hades is better than Hand of Fate.
And it's another, like, apples and oranges. Hades is a hack-and-slash isometric dungeon crawling game, where Hand of Fate is a card-based dungeon-building Batman Arkham-style battle game. Like, they're so different, but I think Hand of Fate does so much so well, which is why I'm very excited for us to eventually play Hand of Fate 2. But I think Hades just does everything right.
Yeah.
I do think Hades handles combat better than Hand of Fate. And
that's Hand of Fate's biggest weakness is its combat. But at the same time, Hand of Fate isn't a combat-based game. Yeah. It has that in there, but it's also about the encounters and your card deck building.
Like building your deck and the dungeon and like making those decisions sort of room over room and floor over floor in the dungeon, which I think Hand of Fate does really, really well. But Hades is just better at everything than anything else in this list.
Minor spoiler alert.
Moon writes down a prediction for the ranking, if you're not watching the video version, and he doesn't show it, he puts in a sealed envelope, and he showed us that he predicted Hades would be number 1 on the list. And guess what? You were right.
There it is.
Yeah.
I'm breathless. Words cannot describe how much this game has shocked me with how good it is. First couple of runs I thought it's good, it's very good. I don't think it's great, and then the more you play it, it's just like, oh no, this has got depth. And what's that? I put my foot in the floor and then a sinkhole appeared, and oh look, now we're going all the way through to the center of the planet. That's how much depth it's got.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Hades is crazy good.
Oh yeah.
Man. All right, well, congratulations to Hades. You finally beat Hand of Fate for the number 1 spot on the best roguelikes of all time.
It only took 100 episodes for something to beat.
Right. It only hit us from episode 1 to triple-digit episodes to get something in the number 1 slot. So congratulations to Hades. And again, if you're not playing Hades, this now carries our highest recommendation. It's the best roguelike we have played, other than the stuff that's in the Hall of Fame, like Binding of Isaac.
Gungeon.
Yeah. Well, we still have Gungeon in the list. I don't know.
It's still on the list, I know.
Someday we'll get to that. But all right, congratulations, Hades, and we'll see you all next run.
Bye.